The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Monday, the 25th day of March, 2024. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. I'm Jamal Hartman. Maya Palacio will be with us in a short minute to bring you the latest in her news break on this Monday morning, brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Audience, how was your weekend? How was your weekend? Did you all have a good weekend? This week represents the final week in the first quarter of 2024. We've gone through the first quarter of 2024 already. I mean, maybe I'm the only one that looks at life and years in quarters, but 4 quarters make a whole, right? So we've gone through a quarter of the year already. How was your weekend? How's your year been so far? Have you had a great first quarter? Let us know. Suzanne Ingham says, awesome Monday, Jamal and Maya. Tanya Cheeseman says, morning, Jamal and Maya. Happy Monday. And Amber.co.uk says, good morning, Jamal. And good morning to all of you. Good morning to all of you. It is a pleasure to be with you today on this Monday morning. Hopefully, again, did you have a great weekend? I had a good weekend. It was, some people say I'm dramatic. The last 2 weekends, I've had people say, oh, you're so dramatic, because I was in colder climates. They don't understand. You don't just go from 80 degrees to 20s and 30s, and that's not normal for some people. Birds fly south for the winter. I mean, most normal people do as well. Anyway, I had a good weekend, very productive weekend. So hope everyone out there had a good weekend. Greetings everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today, as we welcome the former Premier of Bermuda and outgoing Member of Parliament, the Honorable Michael Dunkley, onto this show. We're going to be discussing a number of things: spending retirement, his time as Premier, and his journey in politics. The Daily Play is a Who Said It. So as you can see, I have no co-host this morning, so someone will be walking away as a lucky winner. I shouldn't say that. Eligible to be a lucky winner on Thursday. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. We're going to bring Maya in early to do the news break right now. And we're not worrying about people like Sherry talking about morning Mr. Dramatic. I miss tormenting her on this show. But I still get it in on weekends. Don't worry, folks. We're going to bring Maya in for an early news break, and then we'll bring the Honorable Michael Dunkley in for a conversation to engage live with all of you. So stick with us. Let's see what Maya's got in store on this Monday, final Monday morning in March.
Good morning. Good morning.
Greetings, MP. How are you?
Feeling good this morning. Weather's looking really nice.
I don't even know what that means to you. I don't know what that means to you. Does that mean it's not snowing?
It's got a little on the ground, but it's not in the air, so it's fine.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're acclimated. All right. You had a good weekend then?
Decent weekend. Yeah. Lot done.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Tell me about it on Saturdays. What we looking like today? How's a lot of news?
A small bit of news, but things that are pretty important for everyone to tap into. So, good morning, everyone. This is your daily on news brought to you by the great people at People's Pharmacy. So, starting out right now, definitely something for the college students to know is that Bermuda College IT system was reported down over the weekend, and it has affected critical services such as the telephone networks, the website, and emails. Said the college, they said. So a spokesperson went on to say that the IT department and its vendor partner immediately launched an investigation into the matter. Students and employees have been advised. As a result, the college campus will be closed until further notice. Closed until further notice. However, classroom lectures will be taught remotely, at least some, and students are being contacted about their classes. And also, support staff will work remotely where possible too. So they'll update everyone when possible. I actually heard from a couple of students that they're unable to get into some of the systems that they normally would for schoolwork. So just know that that's happening at the college.
What's with Bermuda and hacking as of late? We still don't really have answers to the government situation from like September last year, I think it was, or August, whenever it was. And now this is crazy. I don't know how hacking works in IT, so I wonder if we can get more information on both situations as time goes on, just so that we can be more aware. But
little added information is that this isn't the first time at the college. It happened in 2022 as well. And in terms of the government one, they're still currently under investigation as far as I'm concerned, as there has been no update on that since, unless it's being questioned in like the Senate or the House. Meanwhile, the Minister of National Security, Michael Weeks, says the ministry is focusing heavily on recruitment as many of the uniformed officers need more people. That's not a surprise, as when I talked to the commissioner on the show here, that was a big thing, that they are very low on numbers, especially within the police department. But let's just hear a few things on what the minister had to say.
All of our uniformed services will be hiring new officers to increase their operational effectiveness and serve Bermuda better. We shall also recruit 2 cybersecurity professionals, as well as a disaster coordinator in our disaster risk reduction and mitigation team. I encourage Bermudians to apply for these posts when they are advertised.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't think things happen overnight, right? I don't, and this is not a criticism of the police and the recruitment or the government, but you know what they say about failing to, plan and prepare, right? This didn't happen overnight. Obviously, we're here now. Work needs to be done. I don't know what to say. This is not my area of expertise. I'm not a recruiter. I'm not an HR person, but you have to embed yourself in the community for people to want to be a part of it.
There is that tricky situation which the commissioner talked about, where I asked, well, why don't you guys just have an option for anyone to report throughout the whole entire year? But there's only like this small window when a certain portal from the government is open for people to apply, which just seems a little redundant, because like if you had it open all year, maybe more people would tend to apply. And now we're on this situation. We're probably going to have people from outside of Bermuda take over these jobs, just like they did for fire and rescue, where you need it more for the airport situation. So that's another thing to look at. So if you do see it, if you are interested, try applying. Furthermore, the Minister of Health, Kim Wilson, shares an update on the Omnibus survey, a survey used to track the sugar tax in Bermuda. So let's listen in.
Approximately 2 in 10 residents have stopped buying sweets, snacks, and treats because of the cost. That's right, 20% of Bermuda residents are saying no to costly indulgences, and 7% of residents have waved goodbye to junk food altogether. The ministry is using this survey to track support of the sugar tax, and guess what? Over half of the respondents are still firmly in support of it.
She said, okay, people are in support of the sugar tax. I wonder, was the survey done at Alaska Hall? I'm just saying. I mean, I think people support healthier eating and doing better, but I'm not quite sure the tax part. But anyway, I could be wrong.
Well, in some more wider news, residents and staff on the Salvation Army's Harbor Light program have built homemade kites to raise money for the men's addiction program. So Chandra Lee Bascom of Harbor Light said the group hoped to raise more than $2,000 by selling the kites that will be available for purchase before Easter. More than 140 kites and frames have been created by the group, and Ms. Bascom said that the annual fundraiser started 24 years ago when the Salvation Army had government cut their funding. So she says, quote, those who are engaged in making the kites thought they were just enjoyment making them. But however, since the public has been coming to purchase, and praising their abilities. They have boosted morale a lot within the organization and the men in the program. So if anyone wishes to actually purchase any of these kites, they are available for $25 at the Salvation Army's King Street location.
That's good. Audience, just by a show of hands, how many people make kites still? Like, yes or no? Do you still make kites, or do you, purchase a kite? But yes or no, do you make kites? Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Right now, I actually have to purchase, but I would prefer to make. And lastly, just closing out in some of the sports news that we know, it's an Olympic year, and obviously we know about the US ATF Grand Prix coming up, which is on April 28th. Just a reminder of that, and having our two Olympic hopefuls, Janai Pantry and Dage Miners, will be out there competing to try to make it to that Paris 2024 Olympic Games. So good luck to them as they are working on their final attempts to qualify.
Indeed, indeed. Maya and I hope to be there. We hope. If anyone wants to, sponsor that. What's the weather looking like today?
Weather's looking like cloudy as rain decreases throughout the morning. Winds a bit moderate, lightly, and we have a high of 70 degrees. So not the best, not going to be too sunny outside, but not horrible.
All righty. I did ask anyone still make kites, and Amber says my favorite thing to do with my daddy is making kites. And then Suzanne Ingham says not anymore, no kites for me. Tanya Cheeseman says nope. Kathy Rogers said yes. So it's a mix. It's a mix. All right, let's give a days of the year real quickly, Maya. So today it's International Waffle Day. Waffle Day, yeah, International Waffle Day. So are you a pancake or a waffle person, Maya?
This year I haven't had either one in so long, so I'm gonna go with pancake, I guess. So
pancake. Okay. Audience, let us know. Are you a waffle or pancake person? Are you a waffle or pancake person? I'm not a breakfast person. I'm a fruit guy, so I would eat a pancake or a waffle, but I take either or. I'm one of those people Dr. King talked about. Like I'm not choosing a side. Like I guess I'm neutral in this space. So yeah, I'm one of those folks. But pancake or waffle? We've got pancakes as Amber, pancakes as Traveling Trotty. We've got both Tanya Cheeseman, both Sean. See, I've got some people in neutral with me and pancake. So no one straight up waffle. Ooh, we've got Angeline Butler says neither. Neither. Interesting. See, I don't know. I would take fruit any day, every day. We've got one waffle. We've got a waffle. WK De Lama. We've got pancake. We've got waffle from pancake from B. Denise Hollis, waffle from Sophia Smith-Hurst, and both from Shawnette. Okay. Well, Maya, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with what will likely be the final live conversation with former Premier Michael Dunkley as he exits politics. So I'll tell the audience, get your questions and comments ready. And Maya, I'm sure you'll have questions as well, as you will also be talking to Mr. Dunkley very soon and be releasing a conversation, correct?
Yes.
All righty. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your Monday, madam.
You too.
All right. Thanks much. Maya Palacio, folks, if you appreciated the conversation and the news break so far, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. We're going to take a quick break. After this break, we'll come back with the former Premier of Bermuda, the Honorable Michael Dunkley. Stick with us.
Let's face it, life can be a little wild, but shopping doesn't have to be. I choose People's, so that whether it's a prescription that needs to be filled, a toy for my little terror, or a gift for a new addition to the family, we'll see about that. Everything's available in one convenient location. Some call it People's, I call it my one-stop shop in the city. People's, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Else.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. I am Jamel Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. Please do not forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Well, we got Amber says, no joke for Maya. Well, Maya's probably had way too much of me for the weekend, so I thought, I'll give a break. And the audience threw tomatoes and other fruit at me last week, so I said, you know what, let's start the week off well, and maybe we'll get a joke going into the holiday weekend, so that at least I'll have time to recover from my injuries if anyone throws anything at me this time. So trying to give you all a break. I know I'm hilarious and you want some jokes. I'm coming back. I'm just gotta go back to the drawing board, because apparently last week I flopped really hard. But all right, without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We've got the former Premier of Bermuda, the Honorable Michael Dunkley. Let's give him a warm TDH welcome, like we know how. Morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning? And nice to be with you. And hi, everybody.
Yeah. I'm pretty good, man. I'm back.
I was looking forward for one of your jokes. I'm sorry you flopped last week, but I don't try to tell them either.
Yeah. I thought a career in comedy was something I was going to try, and I just been pushed back. They pushed me back, Mr. Dunkley. I don't know, man. I don't know. But hey, you know what? We may have other talents, so I might try something else. I always love baseball. It might not be too late for me to try it.
Yeah, well, I'll keep on trying. Maybe you can go to the Olympics as a spectator.
There you go. That's a sport these days. That's a sport. It takes a lot to be a good one. But
that's right.
First off, thank you for doing this. Thank you for always making time for various mediums to have direct conversations with people. You've never shied away from that. I was having a conversation with a very young Bermudian this weekend up in Toronto, and she gave me hope. And she spoke about you as if she knew nothing of what current day politics puts on you. And what I mean by that is we can't shake the past, the way politics is. One party literally get elected based on reminding people of the past and not understanding that there's a new generation who actually want to make decisions based on their own life experiences. So we'll get into that a bit later. But 2 weeks ago, you actually mentioned that you were retiring. And, I just want to ask, many people want to know, why now? Why was right now the time to walk away from politics?
Well, simply put, there's never an easy or right time to walk away from politics, because in politics, as much as you do something good today, you solve an issue today, tomorrow more things come up. And I've been in politics for some time now, 27 years, and I still really enjoy serving the people of Bermuda. I take tremendous pride in working for people of Bermuda. I've given it all my energy to represent my constituencies, and Smith North is like my extended family at the present time. But thinking about this for some time, when is the time to leave? You never know when the next election is going to be called. I could have waited for the next election, but I'd rather have a time that I could work towards and make it happen, rather than wait for the premier of the day to call an election. And in U.S. politics, I heard Mitch McConnell say a couple of months ago that Father Time is undefeated. And I'm not about to test Father Time. I'm 66 in June. I still feel good. I still have a lot of energy. I could still serve for a number of years, but my family has sacrificed. I've been away from my family, been away from from a lot of other things that I'm involved with, and so I decided sometime last year that I would retire at the end of the budget this year, but still remain available to help wherever I could. I love Bermuda so much. There's no way I'm just going to quit politics and walk away. I'm still going to live in Bermuda. My family's here, other than one daughter is away. I just love this country, and it would be a shame not to stay available to help where you can, with all the experience and the ability you have still to help get things done. So I'm retiring from the front line of getting elected for politics. I will certainly miss it. I'll miss the debates in the House of Assembly, but I realize there's time for everything, and it's time for me to take the next chapter of my life and get right down to that.
Indeed. We do have one request, though. Amber is asking Mr. Dunkley, please just don't retire from making my eggnog.
No, well, you'll see, Amber, that we made some for Easter. In fact, they made another batch this morning, so you'll have plenty. And if you ever run out, just give me a call. I think I can find some for you.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's go back. You just mentioned 27 years you've given, almost 30 years, if you like, to politics. So many successful business people never make the jump to politics. Why did you decide to do so initially?
Simple. I'm the type of guy that I don't like to sit on the sidelines. And I recall in the 80s when I graduated from university, came back to Bermuda in 1980, started working, and through that generation, I was playing football and cricket. I was really embedded in life in Bermuda, enjoying it. But I'm not one to sit on the sidelines, and I always had concerns about where Bermuda was going. I always thought I could make a difference, and I just wasn't going to be an armchair quarterback and talk to people about it on the sidelines. So I got involved in my branch in Devonshire South, because in those days it was dual seat constituencies. So I got involved in my branch in Devonshire South, and then when former Premier David Saul retired, I was sitting on the branch. I think I was chairman of the branch committee at the time. He gave me a wink and a nod, and he said, maybe it's time you consider politics. And so that was 1997. There were a number of people who contested the seat, and I was fortunate to win it. And the rest is history. I got elected to the House in April of 1997, and for 27 years I've had it. I've made a lot of good friends, and I've enjoyed my time, even the ups and downs. I really never had a bad day in politics, because every day I'd wake up to try to make a difference. And it was, I guess it was a privilege and a pleasure to always work for the people who had the, I guess, the confidence in voting for me and believe I could represent their concerns and their vision.
Indeed. I remember, because it was the first election that I was heavily involved in, obviously being in media in Bermuda at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2007.
2007, yeah.
Yeah, you lost to Patrice Minus.
Mm-hmm.
You were then appointed to the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Some would have retired then or walked away. Why didn't you walk away, and what did you learn from that experience?
I didn't walk away because, but let me just provide a little bit of background what happened then. And at that time, I had started in Devonshire South, and when I went to single seats, John Barrett stayed in the reconfigured Devonshire South, and I moved to Devonshire East. But then in the early 2000s, the party was trying to win the government, and there was an effort to move some of our candidates into other seats to try to win some seats. So Bob Richards came into Devonshire East. He won Devonshire East in 2007. I moved to Smith North to try to win Smith North, and I fell short. I think it was about 90 votes. But I didn't walk away then, because the job wasn't done. I still felt that I had a lot to offer. And walking away after losing one election in a seat that was very tough against a good candidate would just be quitting. I've never been a quitter, and quitters never win. And so the next day after election, I continued to canvass. I canvassed the area for those years while I was in the Senate, up and down, and I built relationships. And then I won the seat the next time after that. So it just wasn't the time to walk away then. There was still work to be done. And then in 2012, I was successful in winning the seat and have held it since. And I'll miss Smith North. I know the constituency like the back of my hand, and I've grown to be very fond of the family in that constituency. So I'll miss it, but I'm not going anywhere. My business is still in the area, so I'll be around, and I'll be able to help people if they still require any services.
As I listen to what you just said, it takes me back to 2017. And when the One Bermuda Alliance lost, you had some who retired, some who walked away, and then some who were elected. And then within a year or so, decided that they were also going to walk away. I think that's where, as you spoke, I'm just like, when you think of some of those individuals, and, every individual is different, but obviously you were their leader. How does it make you feel how you reacted versus how they reacted to an election loss?
That's a good question. And, nothing's promised to anybody in elections. And so when you say that you're going to stand to represent people and then you get elected, the next time around, you don't know what's going to happen. Your life can totally change. So I have to respect the way people are. But also, I always realized that going into any election, that although I was confident in my ability to get elected or reelected, because of the work that I would do on the ground, I also realized that after that election, you never knew what the political landscape of the country would be. You never knew if you'd be in the opposition or you would be in the government, or, as was in 2020, we were in the opposition, but with a very, very small number of seats. The party shrunk from 19 seats in 2012 to dwindling down to, after the 2017 election, to, was it 12 or 14 seats? I think it was 12 seats, and then to 6 seats. And so everybody reacts differently. But when I make a commitment to something, I'm going to honor that commitment. I'm going to do what I have to do. And, I've been through a lot in politics. I've sat on both sides of the fence. I've sat in a government in 1997 that I knew the writing was on the wall that they were going to lose that next election. Because remember, Jamal, I got elected in a by-election before the general election, and then the UBP lost the general election shortly after that. But the writing was on the wall at that time. I've sat in a government where there was a very slim majority, and it was hard to get things done because, too often in politics, elected officials have personal agendas, and they want to make sure they can take care of their personal agenda as well, and try to hold people ransom over certain things. And I've sat in an opposition where, right now there's only 6 members of parliament, and that can be tough. But I never have shied away from it. Never made excuses about the position you're in. You just got work to do because you were elected by the people, and you have to give the people your all. And that's why it's important when I retired that I wanted to do it in the House of Assembly, where that's where the people's business is done. So I could send a message to not only my colleagues in the House, but to the people of Bermuda and to people of Smiths North that it was an honor for me to serve you, and give the reasons why I wanted to move on, and let the public clearly know the position I was in.
Yeah, and I just want to say it because, I've said it a number of times. I've said it to you in private conversation previously, but I was extremely disappointed in some of your colleagues and how they reacted. The only one I completely understood walking away was Bob Richards. I don't have the problems that many people had with Bob Richards. I didn't see the issues that many people saw with Bob Richards. I thought he done a fantastic job as a finance minister. And I think, everything people complained about with Mr. Richards as finance minister, it's no better with the current one as far as personality and attitude. So that's just my personal perspective. So I completely understood him saying, that's it. Some of your other colleagues, I was very disappointed because just because you're not on a winning team doesn't mean that you can't contribute in a winning way. So I just thank you for being so direct and honest with your response.
And that, I can appreciate your comment there. And certainly, I think Bob was an excellent finance minister. And let's face it, some people get involved in politics and they have the personality to be a politician because they're comfortable around people. They'll listen to people, they can have those conversations. Bob was a great finance minister, but he told you what he was thinking all the time. And, if you couldn't accept that, well, then you'd have a difficult time with Bob. I always appreciated him. I took great comfort as the premier in him being the finance minister because I know he wasn't going to try to give me a 2-4-6. He would tell me straight up what's going on. And I can also understand your sentiment that some people, walked away after they just got elected. Certainly, I think when you get elected, you have a responsibility to the people who have elected you. And one of the challenges we have with politics nowadays is that too often politicians are just thinking about the next election and not thinking about the people that elect them. And the power of a vote is so critical to a strong democracy that as politicians, we have to be better in how we we treat the people that we serve. And that's why I've always put my people first. My wife will tell you that I'm always available. I'm out canvassing all the time. I keep my canvassing records in my vehicle all the time, because you never know at the end of the day when I'm just going to stop and see people. But it's to the point now I really don't need those walking papers, because I know every house and everyone in the houses. But you've got to build up those relationships, and when you come to end a relationship, you've got to do it in the best and most respectful way, because we need strong democracy in a small country like Bermuda. And I have to say, at this time, with 30-6, we're not getting it. The democracy does not work well when one party has 30 and another has 6. And to be fair, the UBP was in the same position in the late 70s, late 70s, early 80s, a bit before my time, and it didn't work well. And then the pendulum swung back, and that's what needs to happen now for stronger democracy.
Indeed. I want to shift gears real quickly. So prior to the 2012 election, there was a document that was shared that showed a strategy on how the United Bermuda Party can win the government. And for those who may not remember, the document, in short, it was, let's put some black faces out front, let's rebrand. Craig Cannonier was then the leader of the One Bermuda Alliance, who led you to victory.
No, the OBA.
All right, yeah, One Bermuda Alliance, right? Yeah, OBA.
Yeah, right, yeah.
He was the leader of the OBA, and
correct.
Within less than 2 years, 18 months probably, he was pretty much forced to resign, which I still don't understand that, as I've said on the show numerous times. You then became premier, and at one point had an entire cabinet of UBP politicians. How do you believe all of that, of what I just said, impacted your time in governance as the premier of the OBA?
I've never reflected back that might have had an impact on my time as the premier. Certainly that document that you refer to, I've made comments about that in the past, and certainly that wasn't a document that I worked from or had any thought that it had credibility in it. And so those are things that come up to try to muddy the political waters about it. It was unfortunate what happened to Craig when he became the premier, and we were put in a very difficult position because anyone who's close to me fully understands that when we were elected in 2012, I had no intention of leading the party. And when we became the government, I had no intention or thinking about the premier. I was very comfortable in the position I was in. Craig had my full support. But when he resigned, that was a different story. And I had to step up, and I did. What hindered us when we were the government is the fact that the PLP was, to some extent, an effective opposition. We had a very tight majority. And then there were challenges with some, major planks in what we were trying to get done. And then we had two members of our party who went and sat as independents. And all of this as we were trying to rebuild Bermuda and turn Bermuda around. And I still think we had some tremendous success in what we were doing, and the record will reflect that.
Well, but I want to go back to, because I think you touched on everything except, there was a time when you became premier where the entire cabinet was full of UBP, and people would go back to that document and say, hold on, we voted for the OBA, not the UBP. Was that a thought of yours? Was that something, did you not consider how this may look when you, have you even reflected to think of anything like that?
Well, I'm not sure, but I can't recall, I don't have the names right in front of me, but you saying this today is the first time I've heard it. I'm not sure that you're entirely correct.
Oh, what I'll do is get it and I'll share.
Okay, but Michael Fay was in my cabinet, and he really wasn't a member of the UBP. Now, I shouldn't have mentioned that name because a lot of people don't like him in the community. Well, but he was a member. He was a member of the cabinet, and he wasn't a member of the UBP. He was one of the founding members or the stimulus behind the BDA and the One Bermuda Alliance, right? So, look, people like to paint the UBP as the bad guy. I'm not going to run from the record of the UBP. The UBP created a lot of positive change in Bermuda and led Bermuda through successful decades, especially in the 80s and early 90s, turned the country around in international business. The foundation was built under the UBP. So, one of the big challenges we have in politics in Bermuda, and you mentioned earlier in the show that people like to reflect on the past and keep going back to that and hold it into the future. Look, I'm proud of some of the work that the UBP did. I ran under the UBP, but I can tell you right now, and God is my witness, that when I appointed my cabinet, I never thought about what political parties any one of them had been in. Never thought about that because, I got involved in UBP because where I live in Devonshire South, that was the only party that was really doing anything. The PLP really didn't even have a branch in Devonshire South. So if I tried to figure out who they were, we couldn't do that. But the UBP members with, Bill Cox and David Soul and John Barrett, those guys were always knocking on my door. They were doing the politics of that you should do, knocking on doors. So I was naturally attracted there. And then I got involved because rather than sit in the sideline and just, criticize or give suggestions, I wanted to be part of that. So, I joined that party because it was the only party that I saw. And I said, okay, I'll make a difference.
Yeah, and I have this conversation often with Bermudian CEO that, and I'm glad you earned that. And that's one thing I think why people continue to respect you. It wasn't all bad. And I think when we actually hear about the past, all we hear is this, that, and the other, and it's always this bad stuff. And Bermudians forget. And Sir John is a reminder when he comes on this show, and he comes on, it's been on pretty often, to remind people of the foundation that the United Bermuda Party set. But again, there was some bad parts, and I think that's what's highlighted.
Of course. And one thing about the PLP, they are excellent at distraction and diversion. And so they'll go back and they'll highlight those bad parts and make it seem like everything about that person or that organization or whatever they're talking about is bad. And that's simply not the case. Yeah, the UBB had some issues, and at the end it was clear that in the late 90s they were going to have a hard time winning the election. They had won a close election, before that. But the UBP built a strong, modern Bermuda. And there's a lot of senior folks around now, and I got to be careful how I use that word because I fall into that category. There's a lot of senior folks around now who reflect back and say, wait a second, that foundation, certainly was great for us. And today, wish we were in a better position where we are now because we're going in a very, very difficult direction for people.
Yeah. Well, last week, I said that Bermuda is unlikely to see another white premier during my lifetime, the way things are going. Politics is very race-based in Bermuda. What role do you believe race played in the One Bermuda Alliance losing in 2017? And what would you have done differently looking back?
Well, 2017, I haven't really factored in any race politics coming into the impact of the loss that we had. It was clear to me that our party, the One Bermuda Alliance, while we did some tremendous work as the government, we had some significant challenges. And then with two of our members, going to be independent candidates, and then unfortunately losing one of those members with the untimely passing, it made it very difficult for us to get reelected. We were a fledgling party at the time. Many people were surprised that we won, and we got stuck right into, turning around a very difficult situation in Bermuda. And then one of the things that, and I don't have regrets in life, because I've said it over and over and over again, you can't just push a reset button and change what took place. But, if you reflect back, one of the things we could have done differently was make sure that we were continually preparing the party for the next election. But we were engrossed in the work of governance and turning the country around, that not enough was put into that. And, that led to the challenges we had at the polls. It was clear that in 2017, a lot of our supporters didn't come out. A lot of the swing votes who had voted for us previously didn't vote. And the PLP were ready for that election. And, they ran a campaign that was successful for them. And our people weren't ready at the time. It hurt significantly. I guess it hurt even more that I won my seat and I governed on. But I made that that decision that night that the people had faith in me, and I always had to have faith in the democracy of Bermuda and continue to work and do what I had to do.
Yeah, I've said on this show a number of times that the beast that we have created in David Burt and his administration, I blame on your government. I've said it on this show, and I'll explain why. When you all won government, you had a number of things in your platform, the right to recall, the referendum on gaming, and a bunch of things that you just didn't follow through on, right? And I say your government, you weren't primaries, the OBA won, but part of the group that won it. Why I say you created this beast is you made it so easy for the Bermuda Progressive Labour Party in 2017 because they had a very easy platform and they started doing this, governing in this way. And this is what really annoys me is, oh, check this box off, we did that, check this box off. So you made it easy for them to say, oh, well, we're following our platform, we're delivering, while they didn't. And they will continue to do that, right? When I think back about that, and as I mentioned that to you, do you feel a sense of responsibility for where Bermuda is right now, even though you're not overseeing Bermuda as a government?
As a member of parliament, of course, you have to feel responsibility for it, but I can't take responsibility for decisions of the Progressive Labour Party. We worked hard to get elected and reelected, and the people, just made their decisions, and you have to accept that. But I've worked assiduously since 2017 as a member of parliament to do the best I can. I spoke strongly in the House about many issues and tried to hold the people to account, supported them where necessary. So I can't take responsibility for David Burt's actions. One thing I think everyone needs to realize is that the PLP are very effective in their politics of opposition. Even when they're the government, they are effective in the politics of opposition. If one example is, look at the budget speech that David Burt delivered in the House of Assembly in February. That had reference to the opposition maybe 20 times in it. The opposition was the star of the budget. That's what they do. They make sure they focus on the other guy to try to continue to derail them or take away from what they're trying to do, because they can't run on their record. And so I'm not going to take any responsibility for the decisions that the PLP or David Burt make. I've been strong on the stance that we have on issues, and I will stand by that. Am I happy at the position Bermuda is in at the present time? Not at all. I mean, we have significant challenges, and too many of our fellow Bermudians are working overseas, especially young people. It's a shame to see that there's been such a drain on the island while we face challenges, with the high cost of living and health insurance and things like that. And, as politicians, we need to do better, because we're good at making excuses about why we couldn't get something done. But, in this case, the PLP talk about COVID. Well, we're past COVID, so let's not keep using that as an excuse. We have modern day problems in Bermuda right now that need to be addressed. And sadly, I think the PLP, as we head to another election, and it's got to be within the next, I would guess, year and a half, because the last election was 2020 October, so it would have to be 2025 in October. But you get 3 months after that if you don't drop the writ. Then we need to face the challenge that we have and run on a record, and not try to denigrate the opposing politicians that you might face.
Indeed. But I mean, going back to my original question, you do understand how people like myself may feel about your inability to stick to your platform made it easy for the PLP. You get why we feel that way.
Oh, of course, I can accept that. Even if I don't agree with it, I can accept that. And I think the PLP has done a good job. They've kept their platform quite simple. They tick the boxes, but they forget about some that they don't do. And what you have to be careful about is things that they might slip in there, because let's face it, when I've canvassed, for 27 years now, when I've canvassed that, some people want to see your platform, they read through it, but the vast majority of people have no clue what's in the platform. They're not going to take the time on the platform. So you have to be careful what you slip in there, because it is clear to me that the PLP has an end game, and that is independence. And, as I said at my retirement, we need to focus on the issues of the day and not get caught up in joining CARICOM or thinking about independence, because there are not many Bermudians that are not thinking about leaving Bermuda at this present time, right? So we need to fix the challenges we have here before we try to change, how we govern ourselves and what we do. And I'm very serious about that because, joining CARICOM or going independent is not going to help Bermuda as it is today be in a better position tomorrow.
Indeed. Just want to go back one last time regarding the UBP, because Sir John, obviously, that was the party that he led for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
The United Bermuda Party definitely set the foundation for Bermuda's economy, right? That we're going to, give credit where it's due. But they also failed to address many issues, race-related issues that still are, you see them in modern day Bermuda. Do you feel you could have done more as Premier of Bermuda, as a white Bermudian, to, address race as an issue in Bermuda?
Look, I'm not going to deny that you can always do more. And, in that regard, yes. But I'm just reflecting back on the time that I was on, in that position and the work that I did and how much energy and time it took. I think that issue continues to need to be addressed in the appropriate way. And I wish there was more time in the day or more time allowing me to do that type of thing. But, I'm not going to go back and look at things that we did and say, I should have dropped this and paid attention to that. Reflection is something I do when I put my head on the pillow every night after I have a prayer. And it gives me direction for the next day, but I'm not going to beat up on that publicly because time has moved on and I will reflect on what I've done and try to make myself a better person every day. That's what I've done throughout my life. And that's what I've done in politics.
All righty. While you were Premier, Bermuda hosted the America's Cup. It would become a contentious issue. Yet, according to some, it was a boost for Bermuda's economy. Why do you think that event didn't seal a political victory for your government?
Well, it wasn't intended to seal a political victory. It was intended to give a stimulus, a boost to our economy, and help everything else we were trying to do around it. If you take a look at what was being done at that time. Hotel development, we were successful in having the St. Regis come to Bermuda. The Lauren was built and opened during our tenure. But we also needed to have the focus of the world on Bermuda and get some short-term stimulus in Bermuda. And the America's Cup came knocking, and we grasped the opportunity. So it was never intent to be a winning key for us. Look, let's face it. Every politician thinks about getting reelected. But when we got stuck in, we got stuck into a significant budget deficit that we had to pay attention to. And so what we were trying to do is turn the country around. And we figured if we could deliver on all of that, we'd get reelected. That wasn't the way it took place. And it's easy to question people. It's easy to reflect back on some of the decisions made because, hindsight is always 20/20. But we felt comfortable with the plan that we had, with some of the work that we had, with some of the success that we had. But we also know that there were some major challenges in there, which, could have been addressed in a different way. And unfortunately, we didn't do that.
And, you've been reflecting a lot lately and during this conversation. What's the biggest lesson that politics has taught you?
I don't know if politics taught me this lesson or just reaffirmed this lesson, but it's something that I reflect on all the time. Is that no matter how good a day is, don't expect it to be that way tomorrow. And no matter how bad you feel about things at the present time, you need to pick yourself up and continue to move on because that's what life's all about. And so I continue to reflect on what gets accomplished in today. But I realize that when you're blessed to go to sleep at night, put your head on that pillow, when you wake up in the morning, you'll have a different set of challenges to face. And the Lord gives you strength to go out and attack them. And that's what you got to do. And that's the way I live my life. I try to live it pretty simply, not to get too complicated about things. I try to categorize some of the opportunities and challenges we have, to face those and make sure that I can move through those challenges and then deal with the opportunities as they come along as well.
Indeed, got you. What are you most proud of as you reflect on your political career?
That's a very good question, and a lot of people would think that I would reflect back on a couple of things that were done, and I can do that, and I have done that. But what I'm most proud of is that I built strong relationships with people. I stayed in touch with people. I always took people's calls. I get calls from one end of the island to the other. Even St. George's fans call me to talk about issues around Cup Edge time, and it must be hard for them to call me being an ardent Somerset fan. But what I'm most proud of is that through now the 27 years of service, and my retirement will be official on Sunday night, Easter Sunday, March 31st. I'm most proud of is I served with honesty and integrity, and I think people will accept that I gave it my best and I was a good statesman for Bermuda, because I've been humbled by the calls of support and the thanks, even by members of the PLP in the House of Assembly a week ago Friday when I made the announcement. So I'm proud that I'm proud that I got involved, I made a difference, and I did it straight up with honesty and integrity.
And audience, if you have any questions or comments for former Premier Dunkley, I will get through as many as possible in a few seconds. So I will acknowledge your questions and comments. Just got a few more on my end. So it's been announced by the One Bermuda Alliance that Mr. King will be new candidate responsible for winning constituency 10, which is where you currently are the member of parliament for. What advice have you gave him, or would you give him as he steps into a space that you've built, relationships and confidence in people to continue voting you in as an MP?
Well, you've touched on it right there. Robert's been working with me for a few weeks now. I just didn't make the announcement, and Robert was selected. I knew I was going to make the announcement, so Robert's been out canvassing with me a bit. As a member of our branch, getting his feet wet. And now that the announcement's been made, he's hitting the doorstep. So the advice that I've given him is the foundation starts in the constituency. If you think you can get elected without knocking door to door and letting people know who you are, getting them comfortable in who you are and being able to contact you, there's not a chance that will happen, especially in Smith North, because it's a marginal seat, and I've worked hard to make it a safe seat for myself going forward. Now he's got to do the same type of work. And the second advice that I've given him is that, look, you have my support. Once you get on the stage as running to be a member of parliament or become a member of parliament, life changes drastically for you, and you have to conduct yourself in a certain way, and you have to be cognizant of your actions and your words, and know that you have my support, and I'll always be there to give you advice. Because the shame that I see in life is that people who have the experience, who have some of the wounds from service in politics or whatever they do, are not asked to provide some feedback, because the world just goes around in circles. What's happened in future generations continues to repeat itself. History always repeats itself. And so I'm here as a resource. Use me. I'm only a phone call away. Of course, I'll be canvassing with him, leading up into the by-election. I'll always be available. But I'm not the type of guy to call people up and be pushy about things. But I will help him, make sure that he understands what is required as a member of parliament, and then help him become a respected and contributing member of parliament.
Alrighty. I'm going to go through, we got a lot of comments from the audience and questions. So I'm going to go through, starting with Tanya Cheeseman. She says the government and the opposition leader worked well together for the country at the beginning of COVID. Do you see the ability for the government and the opposition to work together for the betterment of the country?
I sure do. And the unfortunate thing about it, in reality, some of that takes place now. If you take a look at the House of Assembly, I would say that 95% of the legislation that comes through the House is supported by both sides of the House, no matter which party is in government. That was the way when the OBA was in government. That's the way now that the OBA is in opposition. The unfortunate thing is the contentious issues just get really all the play of the day, and too often politicians from both sides can become too personal about the way they attack it, which would lead to some encumbrances as we try to deal with challenges, in the days after those votes. But I do think that we can work together. And one of the things that I said in my comments to the House of Assembly, that we have to be less partisan in politics than we are at the present time. We can't think about getting elected every day. We need to govern for a number of years before the next election, and we need to work together to make things happen. I've always been the type of politician that, if I could pull the other party involved and get a successful decision on something, then I think that gives credibility to both sides. It doesn't mean that one side's a winner, one side's a loser. I think it gives credibility to both sides. And, I like to see it where we can do that. But unfortunately, politics all over the world is becoming more partisan, and too many politicians are just thinking about getting reelected. And certainly that's not good for a strong democracy.
Got it.
But the people can hold the politicians to account by, saying these type of things on the doorstep, because they're, politicians will listen when you lecture them on the doorstep. We listen.
Okay. Ray Kai actually shared the article in the comments for the audience that I had asked about the secret plan, but he went on to say, and they claimed that it never happened, but even though everything in the document came to light. And I think, just reflecting on that, I think people feel like, although it may not have been something that you say you knew about or are part of, it seemed like everything that was in that document came to play. So I guess he just wanted to point that out. But any thoughts on that? Anything you want to say to that one last time?
Well, I'm not going to get into a long, drawn-out discussion on it, but I would doubt that everything in that document came into play. People love to get their teeth around something like that and have meat around it for many, many, many years. But I certainly, it was not something that, I don't even think I have a copy of that document. And it's not something that I ever even referred to and didn't make decisions from it. So, that's my position on it. If people want to question that, that's up to them. But, I can't argue with that.
All righty. Mark Arthur C. Phillips, he's asking, Mr. Dunkley, will your retirement announcement cause a general election? And many people were wondering if that was something part of your intent.
It wasn't part of my intent, but I did think that it could be, a general election could be called when I announced my retirement. And that decision is up to just one person. The Premier of the day has that ability to call one. And we'll find out sooner rather than later. It would appear to me that both options are on the table. It would appear to me that just having a by-election is on the table, because the PLP have said they've been out canvassing. But also, if you look in other areas, other members of the PLP have been out canvassing as well. So, I don't think anybody other than one person, the current Premier of Bermuda, David Burt, knows what's going to take place. And even then, his mind could be changed depending on it. So I did consider it, but it didn't impact my decision in any way. The OBA has been preparing for an election for some time. So what will be, will be.
All righty. Michael Daniels is asking, what is the root cause of Bermuda's debt?
I'll give you a simple answer, and some might say that will reflect something that Bob Rich would say, is that we spend too much money. But the root cause of our debt, goes back probably for 20 years now, is that we figured that we could borrow because it was the best thing to do to deal with the challenges that we have. And every time we borrow, there's always been a good excuse for it. And unfortunately, at some time, especially for a small community like Bermuda, the rubber's going to meet the road, and we're going to have to pay that debt off. And that's why, I spoke against the Government Loans Amendment Act that was debated in the House of Assembly a week ago last Friday, because it gave the Minister of Finance discretion to go into the sinking fund and use excess borrowing money, which, I've never heard any politician talk about that until this year. How could you have excess borrowing money? Because typically you would borrow according to what you need and you wouldn't have excess. But if you had excess, you'd pay it back to pay off the debt. But that Government Loans Amendment allowed the finance minister the discretion to go use it for whatever they need. And certainly that was, to me, that was a slippery slope, because, you know, we're just kicking the can down the road for future generations, because I can tell you right now that every politician wants to make sure that the voter is comfortable with them. So we always find good reasons to, we can't put up health insurance anymore, so let's use some borrowed money for that. We need some affordable housing, let's use some borrowed money for that. We kick the can down the road, and then in 10, 15, 20 years time, when our debt gets just to be too burdensome for us and we have to do something about it, all of those politicians who made those decisions are gone. They've retired, and now it's up to somebody else to pay the debt. And so, you know, we need to stop this. And so I'm pleased that we're getting closer to a balanced budget. And the Premier says we have a balanced budget. This year we don't. We're using borrowed money for programs. We would still have a deficit. But I'm pleased to say that we're getting closer to it, because it means that we should be in a position in a few years' time, if we continue to have a tight control of our purse strings, that we can start to pay off earnestly some of the debt. And what we need to do is, you know, we need to get in a position in a very short order that we can pay off reasonable amounts of debt every year, and not continue to pay 125 million in debt servicing every year. I mean, that's one of the largest ministries of government. We're just paying for the money we borrow. It's kind of like credit card debt. You're just paying to keep your credit cards. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you. But unfortunately, the politicians in the House today are not going to be the ones who are going to face the wrath of it when it catches up with us.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like a lot of decisions are being made in that way as well. Hotel.
Of course, yeah.
Charles II, he's saying, congratulations on an authentic career in politics. Thank you. What is one thing in politics you would do differently if you had the opportunity?
That's a good question. And, you know, I really hadn't thought about it. But, you know, one of the things that I would have done differently is the day that we had the protest. I believe it was for the airport in December of 2016. Early in the morning, you know, when the crowd started to assemble, I wanted to go talk to the crowds, and I was advised against it by the police. You know, that's something that I would have liked to go just to talk to people, see what they said about it. But, you know, you've got to take advice of the people around you, especially the police. And I at that time, I accepted that decision. But when I reflect back on it as a Bermudan, you know, I've always been comfortable where I've been in positions in Bermuda. And why should that have changed on that day?
Indeed. Shamari Talbot says, Dunkley hasn't retired. He will resurface. He should join the FDM. That would definitely shake the political scene up. Well, let's talk about that. A third party. People are not feeling the PLP. I think we lost him, folks. I think we may have lost Mr. Dunkley for a second, but hopefully he comes. Oh, we have you back. You there? You there? Can you hear us? I think
I lost you, Jamal.
You there? I think that's the question that did it. That might be the question that did it, folks. You go ask them about the FDM. Can you hear me? Testing. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Nope. Technology.
I lost you, Jamal. Can't hear you, mate.
All right. We are having challenges here, folks. Not sure what's happening, but audience, can you hear me? Testing. Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? It's nothing like a live show. Nothing like a live show. Oh boy. The audience.
I lost my feed. Sorry.
The audience can hear me. Can you hear me, sir? I can hear him as well. This is Ray Kai says, I love seeing older people getting jammed up with tech. He's getting there now. Let's not do that, Ray Kai. My applause here says, take out the earbuds. They probably died. Yeah, this is hilarious. Let's see if he's back and if he can hear us. Let's see, folks. All right. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you loud and clear. Lost my feed for a second.
My goodness, did that question about the FDM scare him that much? But
no, I didn't hear what you said. So what was the theory behind that?
Yeah. So Shamari Talbot was just saying Dunkley hasn't retired. He will resurface. He should join the FDM. That would definitely shake the political scene up. That said, what are your thoughts on a third party and the impact that a party like the FDM could make if they have enough time?
Well, I always believe that anyone who wants to get involved in political life in Bermuda should do that. If they want to join the OBA, PLP, create their own party, run as independent, go ahead and do what they have to do. Obviously, I would have my preferences, what I see people doing. But the more people we get involved, the better. Unfortunately, there are a couple of things that push back on that. One is that, a lot of people want to talk about politics, but they still want to sit on the couch and don't want to get involved. Because you're getting involved, if you're running as an independent or if you're running, starting a new political party, it takes a lot of work. We saw what happened before with the FDM. They came out with, a reasonable amount of fanfare at the last election, really didn't have as much success as I'm sure they would have thought they had, and have disappeared since that time. And so, I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was them going on the doorstep now, 4 or 5 years down the road and say, hey, we're back, vote for us, because people would say, well, wait a second, hardly saw you last time, you disappeared, now you come back again. People, in democracy, people want to know they're going to elect somebody who's going to stay there, who's going to work for them, who's going to listen to them. And so the difficult thing about politics is you've got to build up a foundation of what you are about. And, when an election just around the corner, that's not the time to do it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
If you want to be successful. So
Yeah.
I'm not stopping people,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still time to get out there, get on the doorstep. The only way you can do it is go out and knock. People want to see you, they're going to want to talk, because a lot of people don't like to talk publicly about their politics, but they're comfortable on the doorstep telling you what they feel.
I mean, no disrespect to you, and it's worked well for you, yourself, people like Dale Butler, Chris Famous, but I don't like politicians coming to my house. Like, if it were legal, I would probably like. Yeah. And the reason for is, I think you, Famous, Dale Butler, you are all unique because you actually do go all the time, like you're on and so on. I never like people showing up on my doorstep just around that time. No, in saying that, I was actually blessed with people who didn't do that. I had relationships with Nelson Bascom and the late Nelson Bascom and Michael Weeks, but I hear people more and more talking about, no, I don't want to see them on my doorstep because they're only coming during this time. You've actually, again, I remember after the 2007 election, Dale Butler won. It was very close. I think it was between him and Gina Spence. And he on the doorstep, like legit, the next day. And that's the kind of person you were after you lost. It's a commitment, Mr. Dunkley. It's a commitment. And I think what I don't want people get lost in is, and take this respectfully, is some people have the time to do that, right? Not everyone has the time. Some people may have to work a second, third job just to get by. And it's like they don't have the time to give that. So I guess I'm taking issue with your comment about armchair quarterback. I will not be involved in politics simply because you all would. I don't necessarily believe in democracy like most people. I will do things as a leader that the majority may not like. But I believe it's in their best interest, right? That's what leading's about. So I don't believe I am made for the so-called democracy that's Bermuda's had. But I do think I can be effective in other ways, having this show and being an activist out in the street. So I don't know. It's not. I get your point, but I just feel like there's so many other ways to give back to your country outside of politics, and not everyone who's able to give back or wants to give back at the time. Some people may have to work.
No, but it's. I know I respect that view, but for me, I wasn't going to sit on the sidelines. But everyone's different, and that's the beauty of human nature. We're all different. because could you imagine how boring the world would be if we're all the same?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, and I can understand that, some people might not have the time to get out there. But in my constituencies, I try to canvass on a regular basis, and I'll have people call me for election, and they'll say, "Wait a sec, you don't need to come see me. I know how to get in touch with you." So I respect people's views, and let's face it, before I got into politics, I was a busy guy, especially with my family and stuff. I had to make the time to get out there. Would I rather been doing something else, like go play golf or something like that? Sure, we spend time with my family. Yeah. Missing Friday nights, up in the house. Yeah, but when you make the commitment, you got to give it your all. And the only way I could get connected with people is getting people to know me. And you go down the street and people would say, I could say, well, Miss Johnson there, she wants to see me all the time. But the next one, Mr. Cooper, no, just call him on the phone and see what's going on. So, we have to set our boundaries. And that's what I like. Everyone's different. You got to get to know people to represent them.
Indeed. Renee Simmons, she has a question. Do you believe the current system of governance is serving Bermuda well as the world evolves? What are your thoughts of a more conducive system of governance alternative to the Westminster system?
I think it's a very interesting conversation to have, because if you take a look at governance all around the world, even if it's not a Westminster system, look at the U.S. system. Look how contentious it is. At the present time, I think the president just signed off on a budget to keep the U.S. government running. They talk about that every year because their politics is so partisan now between the House, the Senate, and the executive office at the White House. So it's a good conversation to have. But I think that in any political system, if politicians act in a way that allows them to be partisan all the time, we're going to have the same challenges. I've said it over and over and over again. We got to get away from people being politicians to having more people becoming statesmen, where they just think about the future of the country and what the people want, and they're not afraid to reach across the aisle and do something about it.
All righty. Maya Palacio is asking, how do you feel about the direction of the OBA as you leave? And how do you feel about the OBA bringing back Marcus Jones as a candidate?
Well, obviously, the direction of the party is got a lot of challenges to face because we've only got 6 seats and one's up for a by-election now. But, I think the former leader, Cole Simons, started to do a reasonable job at rebuild. I believe Jarian has got his feet on the ground and is in a good position to take the party towards election. I think the OBA will field the full slate of candidates going forward. As far as Marcus Jones, bringing Marcus Jones back, look, I believe that Maya must be referring to comments that he made. And I certainly, I haven't known Marcus that long, but I've sat in caucus with him. And I view Marcus as a solid person who cares about Bermuda. And let's face it, I think there have been many people who have said some things in hindsight that they would like to retract. And so, life's about moving forward. And I think everyone needs to be given opportunities as long as they're genuine and sincere about the position that they're in.
I just want to say this. At this time, I don't exactly remember what Marcus Jones said, but I want to just echo what you said just now. Folks, every day we do this show, when I'm going back and editing and looking, I'm like, man, I couldn't have said that. Like, we say stuff. And maybe what he said is way more severe than what I said, but also remember what I said earlier in this conversation. I couldn't get into politics because you all will try to, oh, that's Donald Trump Jr. Trust me, I already say things you don't like. I'm not a people pleaser like that. I'm a let's get it done person. So it's hard to have that all together. So whatever he said, no one died, right? I hope. No, I hope not. Well, no. My point is, I mean, whatever. Again, it could be severe. I don't remember at the time, but at the end of the day, the questions that need to be asked: can he be trusted to pass the legislation and policies that make Bermuda a better place for everyone? Couple more questions.
And I think that's what the people of the constituency number 19 will decide. And he's on the doorstep, and they can ask him all those questions.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. But as you bow out of politics, what are your honest, direct thoughts on the current state of Bermuda?
a simple answer to that is that, as I've said before, that, you know, as much as you do tomorrow, you always have significant challenges. And the current state of Bermuda is quite worrying, because while we have the strong foundation of international business, we also have a very weak foundation of what I would call the local economy. And you can see that in the cost of living is very high. You know, the health insurance hasn't been addressed in spite of the promises by the government. Our infrastructure is crumbling. You know, we can't even fix our roads. We can't even maintain, you know, government buildings and stuff like that. So I'm very worried about the future direction, because we've got to stop making promises and got to start doing things. And if you can't take care of the simple things, and, you know, Colonel Birch, you know, you have to give him some credit, because he says what's on his mind, and, you know, he's known by some people as getting things done. You know, so I give him credit for coming out and apologize about the state of our roads. But the fact of the matter is, I'm 65 years old, almost 66 in June, and I've never seen the condition of our roads this bad. I mean, you can't go anywhere and not get in a pothole. It's dangerous to be out there. And so, you know, we face significant challenges, and government continues to make decisions. You bang your head and go, well, wait a second. So the government asphalt plant is not working. They're counting on a private sector company to do something, but they don't have a contract really with them to get anything. And then they go out for maintenance, and we're stuck. Look, the roads just didn't get like that overnight. And, you know, it's just a factor of a lot of things that, you know, it's the broken window syndrome. If the little things can't get fixed, the big picture is going to get more difficult as we go on. And I think people are talking with their feet. More people are leaving the country than ever would before. And, you know, people are now realizing that seniors, that maybe they can't afford to live in Bermuda. And so if we don't address these issues, then we've got serious challenges. And they're right here on our doorstep now. And, you know, the government, all politicians need to be real, that things aren't hunky-dory in Bermuda. As much as the Minister of Economy would like to talk about how great the economy is, that's just not correct. International business is doing well. God bless them. Let's keep them. Let's keep working with them. But the local economy is struggling mightily. And if that's not addressed, it will be our downfall.
You know what? You just made me think of something. Speaking of the Minister of Economy, just came to mind the whole immigration thing. During your time as Premier, yourself and Michael Fay were trying to have conversations in getting more people in Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
This was for the gangs. Now, I'm going to be very frank with you. Having known the history of the United Bermuda Party and reading the Pitt report and various reports, my thought was, as you stated earlier, you had such a slim majority, you needed to find votes somewhere, right? So bringing more people in that would seemingly vote your way was what I was thinking. This may be part of their strategy to maintain political power. Again, that's just me, a layman. I'm not saying that's what it was. Well, we're now almost 10 years later, probably, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the Bermuda Progressive Labor Party is singing the same song about, well, we need people, right? And the only difference is you have some MPs out there saying, yeah, but we're not trying to get people for votes. At the end of the day, there's not much between the needs that the country needs of both political parties. When you reflect on that and you see where we are today, I mean, what will you say to people who oppose? I mean, I'm literally telling you the reason I opposed it at the time. Did I believe Bermuda needed more people? Yes. But I didn't understand the intent behind why yourself and Michael Fay in particular were pushing it the way it seemed it was going. And that was me based on my own readings, right? Mm-hmm. So what would you say today, even to someone like me, and please be direct and honest. I know you will.
Yeah, exactly, right. Look, you're right. I can't disagree. There's little difference between the positions, right? The PLP will tell you there's a big gap between the positions. But the fact of the matter of this is, one is, you know, we've moved on from some time and very little's been done. Another thing is that, you know, the impetus by us was shut down before we even had the discussion. The first meeting that we had, I believe it was the Anglican cathedral in town, the church hall there. That was the first meeting where Minister Fay and Minister Sylvan Richards were there to talk about the paper that we'd put out. It was shut down. Never got off in a conversation with it, right? And so the PLP were intent; they were going to shut it down, and they said, "Well, because you're going to give away status." And as you said, that some people thought, well, you're trying to buy votes, but the fact of the matter is, no matter what the process was, if it had been successful, the people wouldn't have got status before the next election. Wouldn't have been on vote for the OBA at the next election. And the PLP fought against it. But, rest in peace, Walton Brown, who was the shadow immigration minister, after civil disobedience had closed down the Senate, because you'll remember there was a Senate session was closed down, the former member of parliament came to see me in the cabinet office, and we talked about the bill. And he said, look, we could accept this bill, but we can't allow the people who will get the status to all get the status at one time. And I said, we haven't even got there yet. We haven't even had these discussions about what the final should look like. But it was shut down automatically. And here we are now, almost 10 years later. We're in the same position, and the PLP is saying, well, it's different. We're just going to give away PRC. But we haven't had a conversation about what is right for Bermuda. Because, I understand a birthright is very important. But if we're gonna want people to come to the island and commit to the island, we have to be real about what they will feel about their long-term arrangements. Will they be comfortable having children on the island that are just, going to not really have any say about what goes on and what their future is? No, because they'll get up and go. And that's what I find interesting about all this CARICOM stuff, because the government's avoided having any conversation about CARICOM, about what the pros and the cons are. They say there'll be no free movement of people to Bermuda, but that's not what CARICOM's saying. We're afraid to have the tough conversations about immigration while we're hemorrhaging our own people leaving the country. Isn't that interesting, Jamal? Isn't that very interesting? We're afraid to have those tough conversations. Wayne Keynes tried to get into it, had members from both sides of that house, and there seemed to be some progress, and then he was dismissed or he resigned. And now Minister Hayward's trying to do it, and we're talking about PRC, but we don't know what the legislation will look like. We could be talking about this for another 5 years. Yeah. Meanwhile, Bermuda burns. That's politics at its best for you.
The immigration conversation, and I just hope people haven't lost interest in it. I hope people are keeping a close eye on it, because definitely when the One Bermuda Alliance was in government, it seemed to have much more attention than it's getting now. We know that's a key thing.
Well, that was created by the PLP.
Very enough.
Yeah.
Ray Kai's asking, what about term limits? What could we have done differently there?
Is Rakai talking about work permit term limits or term limits for members of parliament? To be clear,
term limits, I believe, work permit term limits.
What do you mean? What could be done with it? We got away with term limits when the OBA was the government, and I stand by the decision because I think that it is very difficult if the immigration process works properly and the review of work permits is done properly, it's very difficult to have an experienced employee that you need in your business to be turned away, and you have to start from scratch again if there's no one qualified on the island to do that job. So I support that decision.
Alrighty. There will be people who will just never like you because you're tied to the United Bermuda Party. There will be people who don't like how you govern and the like. But you have continuously said you govern for all people. You were fearless in doorstep stepping on and the like. What message will you say to the people who you were unable to convince or get on board with your ideas to make Bermuda better as you saw it?
I never really thought about that much, because I try to treat everybody the same, to show them respect, to listen to what they say. And, even people who, I know are hardcore PLP, I always knocked on their door. I always had conversations, because I just think it's appropriate that, especially when you're in a position of authority as a member of parliament, you have the responsibility to be available to everyone, and that's the way I serve. So I don't look at people as one party or the other. I looked at them as Bermudians, and we're all trying to go forward and make the country better and sustainable for future generations and our children and grandchildren.
Indeed. I remember the late Laverne Furbett. She didn't like many UBP or OBA folks, but she admired and loved Sir John. There are quite a lot of different PLP people I know who admire Sir John, admire Dame Pamela Gordon. And Mark Arthur C. Phillips is asking here, who was a PLP MP that you admired during your time in politics?
That's a pretty easy question. Nelson Bascom. I got along with Nelson quite well. We actually played a bit of golf together. And I always admired Reggie Burroughs, Stanley Morton, and might be surprising for some people, but I had a lot of time for Dame Lewis, because when I first entered the House in 1997 and I gave one of my first speeches, Dame Lewis came to me in the kitchen afterwards and started to critique me and give me some advice. And, I'm listening. And then when she finished, I said, "Thank you very much, ma'am." And I went to John Barrett. I said, "John, what's that about?" He says, "That's Dame Lewis, man. She will give you advice to help you out, but on the floor, she'll dress you down as well." And so I always respected her for that. She didn't have to come over to me and give me advice. She could have let me wallow in the mistakes I was making. Now, we didn't sit well in positions, but I knew that she was always listening, and she would tell me what she thought. And so, there were a number of people that I respect. I respected Eugene Cox because, he was straight up with a job to do. And so, in spite of what people think that, I was UBP and OBA, there are people in the PLP where we sat on different sides of the political divide. So there were obviously some differences in our political philosophy, but I certainly had a lot of time with them.
Interesting. But I want to go back, since you brought up the late Dame Lewis Brown Evans. You were the opposition leader of the United Bermuda Party when she passed, leading up to the 2007 election. And you heavily criticized for not being present at her funeral. Do you regret not being present at her funeral? And how do you believe that impacted you in that election that you lost?
I don't know if it was an impact. I guess no one will know. Everyone will have their opinion on it. I'm sure that some people would try to play that up. I gave my regrets at the time of passing, and certainly that's all I want to say on the matter.
Okay. Let's talk retirement, man. I mean, you're an avid golf player, right? You love golf. Some people, when they retire, their family's like, "Oh, that means more time with him." How do you plan on spending your retirement? I mean, your family happy to? You got grandchildren now. Like what does life look like for Michael Dunkley after March 31st?
Well, I still have business interests that I will take care of, but I have more time, certainly more time for my family. I'm really looking forward to more time with the grandchildren. Every time I come home, one of my daughters lives right next door to me. So if the car's there, I stop and see my grandkids, and it certainly brings a twinkle to your eye. And my other daughter is due next month, so I look forward to spending more time there. And look, let's face it, Jamal, I love all sports, and but at when you start to be getting older and you're a senior, there's certain sports you can't play. So I'll play a little bit of pickleball where I don't have to run too much. I can still use a hand-eye, and I look to get my golf game back. When I got involved in politics in 1997, I had just won the club championship at Mid-Ocean for the third time, and I was like a scratch or a +2 at the time. Now I'm getting out of politics, and my handicap is like an 8 or 9. So I've got work to do to get it back, but I won't have any problem keeping myself busy. But I'll always be available to try to make a difference to keep this beautiful country of ours in a better place.
All right. What would you say we've had a long conversation this morning. You understand the current state Bermuda's in. People, if they're not in the IB sector, a lot of people are struggling. If they're not entrepreneurs, people have left, people are considering leaving. People have lost hope. What would you say to those who are on edge and hopeless?
Well, I mean that's a very good question, and sometimes when people lose hope, that there's very little that you can say to them because their conditions got to change. But what I will say is that I know that time allows things to change if people stand up and make a difference. Now that can be one person personally on their position, or it could be somebody in the community changing the position. And we have a lot of real good people in Bermuda who can make a difference. And I would say to those who have lost hope or feel in a difficult position where they don't know what the future is going to bring, to reach out to somebody they can trust, just to talk and get some advice. Because once you broaden that circle and you get an understanding of what you face and where you can go, then you can make better decisions. Because there are many people who have been down but have stood back up again and made a difference from very difficult circumstances. And so while I'm not comfortable about the position that we are in Bermuda at the present time, I still believe that there's great opportunity here. But we as people, we need to make a difference in what we do, and we can turn things around just one step at a time. Things can happen quite quickly.
Alrighty, Michael Dunkley, I just want to say this before you head out. Thank you for your service. I appreciate the relationship that we've had over the years. It's been good and at times mostly good, but we've had our things that we agreed on. But I appreciate you. Always a fearless person, moving forward and doing what you believe is best. And I want you to enjoy your retirement from politics. I know people are probably still going to call you, but man, turn that phone off every now and then.
No. Well, no. When I see it, I'll remember the call and I'll return it back. I might not answer it right away, but I certainly appreciate you. Look, one of the reasons why I consider you a friend is because I know you'll tell me what's on your mind. I just don't like to hear the good. I like to hear the bad, and I like to hear the indifferent, because that's what life's all about. If people tell you what you want to hear all the time, you're not going to be half the person you can be. So I appreciate that. And I can remember when we first started to develop the relationship, and I respect you, brother. You can appreciate that, because I know you'll tell me what I should hear.
Indeed. And there's a lot out here. Suzanne Ingham says, thank you, sir, for all you have done. There were quite a few comments of people just thanking you this morning. So I think people will miss hearing your voice in the house. They'll seeing you on the doorstep. But once again, I just want to say, not just thank you to your family, your wife, Pam, your children. Thank you to everyone who's allowed you the time to actually give to Bermuda. As Tanya Cheeseman says, we appreciate your leadership. And hey, don't be a stranger, because if an election's called, we may want to bring you on board to hang with us for election night.
No problem. I'm up to any possibilities. And look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just stepping off the front of the stage. But like Sir John, I care about Bermuda. I'll care about that until the day they laid me to rest, and hopefully that's many years down the road. But I'll still be around and do it. And Jamal, to your audience and to the people of Bermuda, I'm humbled by the reaction to my retirement, and I really appreciate all the sentiments. And I will still be around to make a difference if people want it, because this is what Bermuda is about. People trying to come together and make a difference. We live out here in the ocean by ourselves, and no matter what all our friends around the world say in different countries, they'll take our bread and butter and eat it. We got to make sure they can't take it. So we're all in it together.
Indeed. Michael Dunkley, thank you so much. We'll talk soon, sir. Have a great day.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Michael Dunkley. Folks, if you appreciated this morning's conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. I thought it was a very good conversation, but we'll take a quick break. Someone's going to be eligible for a prize when we come back after this short break. Do not go anywhere.
Hi there, welcome to Medical House. We're located at number 6 Bakery Lane. I can't wait to show you all of the great stuff that we carry. Come on inside, let's see. Let's kick it off in the footwear department. When it comes to footwear, we carry functional, comfortable, orthopedic, and waterproof shoes. We have construction shoes, golf shoes, shoes for walking, shoes for boating. We even have shoes for pickleball. We have shoes for everyone. With brands by Skechers, Atrax, Propay, Easy Street, Nursemates, Clogs, Avenger, Cherokee, Cat, Frog Talks, and DeWalt. The list goes on. Take a look at our workwear for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places, and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Paired with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear, you can't go wrong. Long days, long shifts, you no longer have to endure comfortable underwear. Designed by nurses, we now offer premium undergarments by Swoop that are unique, fun, comfortable, and functional. The only underwear you'll ever want to wear. Who says high-quality functional products can't be stylish and comfortable at the same time? Speaking of stylish, we also have top-quality running, walking, and workout apparel by Skechers in a variety of sizes for men and women. Cool, breathable, and dry. With our wide selection of Skechers footwear, you'll look great before, during, and after your workout. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
You'll be surprised at everything we have to offer at our huge new retail and wholesale location on Bakery Lane.
All righty, welcome back. Thanks again to the Honorable Michael Dunkley for stopping by today. Really appreciate it. The conversation with him. Again, folks, if you please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Make sure you subscribe to our website, thedailyhour.com, so that you don't miss any upcoming conversations or information of things that we have going on. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medical House, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we're able to have these conversations with you on a regular basis. It is time for the Daily Play, and we will do a hashtag giveaway as well. Because you all are such a great audience, and we're not going to have a show on Friday because it's Good Friday, but it's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia. 5 editions of Bermuda Trivia are now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, audience, it's your turn. This quote is by a civil rights activist. Quote, "One day we will learn that the heart can never be totally right when the head is totally wrong." Who said that? No, it was, yes, it was Rekai, you answered. It was not Marcus Covey. It was Dr. King that said it. Dr. King said, "One day we will learn that the heart can never be totally right when the head is totally wrong." So Rekai, you'll be entered into this week's draw, which will take place on Thursday. We're also going to do a hashtag giveaway this morning, folks. So just hashtag the Daily Hour to enter. Hashtag the Daily Hour right now, and I will give my final thoughts as you put hashtag the Daily Hour, and then we'll do the giveaway. But look, I want to say this regarding Michael Dunkley. No politician's going to be everyone's cup of tea. As he said just now, we disagreed on a lot. You know, I'm going to be honest and frank. I did not like the idea of immigration they were trying to push. From my perspective at the time, I thought it was based on race and votes. And even though Mr. Dunkley said just now, it wouldn't have impacted the next election, but it may have impacted future elections. So there were things I disagreed with. At the time of America's Cup, I disagreed with that. I didn't, it was the way they done things. Again, time changes minds sometimes, right? What I can't deny and I won't deny, and I don't think any of us will ever do, is the fact that we didn't really, as a country, give them a chance to govern. Speaking of the One Bermuda Alliance, we didn't. We didn't give them the same opportunities that we're giving to the PLP. And I understand the reasons for it. And this is why I continuously say that one of the lessons that Michael Fay never learned is you can't govern like Colonel Birch. There's a difference in how the people see you. But Michael Dunkley, for whatever you think of him, was fearless in his approach to politics. He would go on any door, talk to anyone, regardless of how they felt about him. This is a man who's got a business that many saw as a monopoly. Why even get into politics? You're good. But politics called him and he wanted to be involved. He wanted to make a difference in that respect. Credit to him. I'm not built for it. I'm not made for it. I give credit to anyone who goes into politics with good intentions and maintains them. Because many put their name forward and say they'll govern this way and they'll do this and do that. And then the total opposite happens. Credit to him and congratulations on a political career, almost 30 years. I hope that now he gets to enjoy retirement. I hope that others come in behind, learn from his mistakes and successes, and understand that if nothing else, politics should be what you can give to the people, not what you can take or get from them. All right, let's do the hashtag giveaway. Let's see who's going to be the Lazaki winner. Let's do it. Draw, draw, draw. Who's going to join Ray Kai? Let's hit that drum roll. Who's going to join Ray Kai? Who's it going to be? All right, Tanya Cheeseman, you are joining Ray Kai. Give Tanya a big congrats. Congratulations to Tanya and Ray Kai. They are going to be entered into this week's draw. Tanya and Ray Kai. Let's just put their names. They will be entered into this week's draw. All right, I've got some daily inspiration for you because we got to head out. We had a very long show today. All right, this quote is by Brian H. McGill. Quote, you reclaim your power by life. Woo. Quote, you reclaim your power by loving what you were once taught to hate. End quote. Let me just say that again. Quote, you reclaim your power by loving what you were once taught to hate. End quote. Brian H. McGill. That's your daily inspiration for the day, folks. I like that one. We did have a question just now. Someone asked, LEC asked, what time do you start your broadcast in the morning? I'm in the U.S. I'm in the U.S. as well. This broadcast starts Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. in the U.S., I think. Yeah, 7 a.m. we start at 8 a.m. Bermuda. All right, folks, it's that time. Please don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. I'm Jamal Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. I am is out. Peace.